Hi, my name is Bridget. I'm 22 years old and I know firsthand what it's like to live with an addict. When my brother's drug addiction started, I was 12 and I didn't really know how serious it was until I was in 8th grade, and it was my 8th grade graduation, and at the time I felt like that was such a big deal, and my dad couldn't come because he had to stay home with my brother.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Brando. I'm 22 years old and I have firsthand experience living with someone who has an addiction. The person who I live with who has an addiction is my mom. My mom is an alcoholic and also struggled with pain medication. I found out about her addiction when I was in 7th grade. I found out because she got a DUI and her license was suspended, so they had to tell me.
I didn't understand it completely when I first found out. Drugs weren't talked about even 10, 11 years ago how they're talked about now. So I didn't really understand it. I just knew something was seriously wrong.
When I was first told about the addiction, I felt confused and blindsided because I didn't know what signs to look for in somebody with an addiction. The main thing that it made me feel, because of the age I was at, was that I didn't want anybody else to find out. So it wasn't that I was more worried about my mom. I was more worried about other people finding out that my mom was an alcoholic and she didn't have her license.
My brother was on drugs. Living with him would be finding him passed out in different places, checking his pockets when he left his pants on the bathroom floor, finding needles different places in our house, with my younger sister, a lot of fighting all the time between him and my dad, my mom always being worried, someone always having to be home to watch him as if he was a child and not a 30-year-old.
Every time she relapsed, it was not her telling us that she relapsed. Me and my brother would continuously catch her, so it started feeling like we were the parent and she was the child. We would go through her closet when she would go to a meeting. We would smell her breath when she would get home. And I guess the hardest part of that is just like making you lose your trust. No matter what they say, whether it was about drinking or anything, I lost trust with whatever my mom said. I second guess everything she says.
My brother's been to, I would say, over 10 rehabs.
When she went to rehab, she was only gone for like maybe 6 days before she came home. So when she came home so fast, I felt like I wanted to believe that maybe she didn't really have a problem, and maybe this was just like one DUI doesn't mean that she's an alcoholic. And then as years went on and she continuously relapsed, I realized that you don't have to be drinking 24/7 every day and not be able to hold a job to be considered an alcoholic. You could be a high-functioning addict, and to everybody else, it looks like you don't have a problem until you get home at night and you're alone, and that's when she would struggle. My mom's a nurse, so to keep her nursing license, she had to attend a nursing meeting along with regular AA meetings. So this meant that she was at work from 9 to 6 and then every night at a meeting. So my dad became the primary parent in my life, where before, when I was younger, we were always with my mom. So that was a hard change for me. And also because the norm is that your mom is with you all the time. And for that to change to my dad was a hard switch. But I was always thankful that he was able to step in.
I always thought he would get better until he started using heroin, and then I really felt hopeless, and I don't know many people who have recovered from a heroin addiction.
She she would take me and my brother to AA meetings with her 3 days a week, and hearing all of their stories and what they all have been through made me feel better about my mom's experience, because she didn't have as many turmoils as some of the other addicts that were in her meeting.
My parents are exhausted. They feel helpless and hopeless at this point too. The longest he stayed clean was, I think, 2 years, maybe a year, somewhere around there. But he's never been clean longer than that. It's still happening, just as bad as it was 11 years ago.
Today, my mom is sober, and I'm able to experience what I remember when I was little, being with her all the time, and her being able to 100% be there for me.
The way I feel about drug addiction has definitely changed throughout the time of living with my brother. I know it's a disease. I see that it can control someone's brain and make them do things they wouldn't usually do, act out of character, really makes them a different person. Living with someone who's an addict is hard because you have to deal with being angry but still loving that person and knowing that they're sick. And eventually you have to stop doing things for them because it just takes a toll on you more.
Addiction is, to me, something that runs in families, and I noticed that it's a pattern in my mom's side of the family. Her dad, an alcoholic, her sister struggling with alcoholism also. So I think that it made me and my brother more aware of what we could be susceptible to in addiction, because it runs in our family. So it made us think about drinking differently. We don't think of it as fun, I guess, more because we related it to something that turns into a lifelong struggle.